Hello there! Welcome to this video from Loving Every Stitch by Ruby Baby! I'm Ruby Baby. In this video, we are going to be working on the Granny Squared or
G-Squared,
the Granny to the Second Power hoodie. So if you're ready, let's go! Oh, one more thing before we get started. I just wanted to let you know that if you are interested in the written pattern for this design, I do have that available to you. The link will be down in the description box, okay? I think that's it. Okay, let's go. Let's get started. So this is the hood we're going to be working on today. As you can see, it's a beautiful granny square, but I don't want you to limit yourself to one yarn or one granny. You can use any pattern with a square that measures 20 inches and you can make this hood, but this is what we're working on today. Sorry. I know I said one last thing ago, but one last thing. If you already know how to make a granny square and you're saying, Cousin Ruby Baby, I don't need your granny square, I already know how to make one. Well, you can just skip on to the assembly section and take it from there, okay? For this pattern, you're going to need a 6.0 millimeter J-hook, a pair of scissors, 2 stitch markers, a tapestry needle. You'll also need measuring tape and any color yarn. For this demonstration, I'm using these 2 contrasting colors for this granny demonstration. Okay, let's just move all these things out the way. And to get started, we're going to use the colorful stuff. I'm going to start with the colorful stuff. And we're going to start with a slip knot. And then we're going to chain up 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're going to join to our first chain to form a loop or a ring. And now I'm going to work over my tail. I'm going to chain 3 here. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do 2 double crochets. So here's 1 and 2. And then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do another granny cluster here. 3 double crochets. And we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And do another granny cluster of 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to chain 3 again. And another granny cluster of 3 double crochets. I'm going to chain 3 and then join to our first stitch, which is the top of the first chain 3. Just like that. So this is our foundation square. Just like that. Okay, so I just kind of pull my tail a little bit and that still will secure it nice and tight. And move that out the way. Then we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to turn our work. So that way we can work directly into our chain space. We're going to do our first granny cluster, which is an additional 2 double crochets right here. And because we're in the corner, we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And then we're going to do another granny cluster right here. Okay. After that, we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. to get on to our next space. And this is another corner. So we're doing 3 grannies here. We're going to chain 3 and then another granny in the same space. One, 2, 3. We're going to chain 2 and then do another granny corner, which is 3 double crochets, chain 3, 3 double crochets. Chain 2, hit this next corner just as we've been doing. And then we're going to chain 2 after that, and then we're going to join to the top of our first granny cluster, which is the top of that chain 3, which is our first double crochet. And now we have our second round of squares, just like that. So for round 3, let's chain 3 again. 1, 2, and 3. Let's turn our work. And we're going to work right into that space. We're going to do 2 more double crochets to complete that granny cluster. And this is what we have here. So now we have our first middle space. So we're going to chain 2 to go over to our corner. And then we're going to do a corner granny, which is a 3 double crochet, chain 3, 1, 2, 3, and 3 double crochet in the same space. Then we're going to chain 2, work our first middle space granny, 1, 2, and 3, chain 2, and then do our corner granny, 3 double crochets, chain 3, and then another 3 double crochets in the same space. Just like that. So we'll actually continue that pattern all the way around. So between the spaces, we're doing a granny, a chain 2, and then granny. But when we get to the corners, we do granny, chain 3, granny in the same space. And that's how we're going to work our granny pattern for this whole square. Okay, so now we're coming to our last corner, and I'm going to chain 2 and join to my first granny cluster here. And this is what our third row will look like. Simple granny, just like that. So like I said, so chain 2 in the spaces, just like that, between grannies. And then when you get to the corner, you're gonna granny, chain 3, granny in the corner space. And you're gonna do that all the way around, over and over, until you reached your achieved square inch, which for me and us in this pattern will be 20 inches. I've done 16 rounds to accomplish 20 inches. So I'll meet you back after I finish all 20 inches or 16 rows. Okay, so here we are at our 20 inches, See how fast that worked up? That worked up so fast. So what we're going to do now, we're going to fold our square in half. Okay, just like that. And see, if I was smart, I would have cut my tail long and used that as a sewing point, but that's neither here nor there. Let's stay focused. So we're going to fold it in half with the wrong side facing out, and we're going to seam across the short side, the top portion. This is going to help create our hood. So we'll just take a piece of scrap yarn. I'd say about, let's say about 20 inches. Let's keep it at 20 inches because we want to just make sure that it's long enough. So scrap yarn the size of 20 inches should be long enough. And we're going to just thread our tapestry needle, and we're going to seam the top of our hood together, meeting every granny, like let every granny meet each other so it can be a nice even sew across. So see how I'm just lining up all my grannies together? In that corner space, that tail would have been perfect to sew, but we'll just work that in at the end. And we're just gonna thread our tail, our sewing tail onto the edge, and this is the edge back corner. So we're gonna work from the back to the front of the hood, and I'm just doing a double knot here, and we're gonna begin to sew. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna sew it. Let me straighten this out. Okay, so we're gonna fold it evenly using the front loop of our first stitch, just like that, and the back loop of the stitches that are in the back. So front for the front, back for the back. And we're gonna do that back and forth all the way across, going into every stitch evenly. So see what I did there? I just used the back loop and then the front loop. Now my front loop and then the back loop. And I just went over my first whole granny. So the next stitches are my chain stitches. So just make sure you're going stitch for stitch all the way across in this manner, just back and forth. And you can make your stitch tight, but not too tight where it's buckling. So we just want to stitch it secure and even all the way across, matching stitch for stitch. Back loop, front loop, front loop, back loop, just like that. Just picking up those stitches all the way across, nice and even. Okay, so we're coming up to our last stitch here. This is the beginning of the opening to the hood. So do that last stitch, and now I'm going to secure it with a knot. Don't go crazy. I think I do just 2 knots here, but don't go crazy because we don't want too much of a lump there. But this is what we have so far. And see, all our stitches are matching stitch for stitch. And this is what it looks like on the right side. Just like that. And you can leave that tail for now. And we're going to move on to the next portion. So this is our first fold. And now what we're going to do is just line up our grannies again. I'm going to count down 9. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then we're going to put our stitch marker here at the chain space right before the cluster. So I'm just going to mark these stitches on both sides, putting them together just like that and securing it there. Then I'm going to count down another 4 clusters. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put another stitch marker in the same chain space as I did above, just like this. And then we're going to leave the remaining 3 clusters unworked. So between this stitch marker and this stitch marker, we're going to sew together just like we did the top of the hood. So that's the opening, and this is the neck portion. So let's sew this side together using the same method. So get a scrap yarn that measures about twice as long as the space you want to sew. And then we're going to thread our tapestry needle. And then we're going to begin right where that stitch marker is. So front loop of the front, back loop of the back stitch, and then we're just going to secure our sewing thread just like that. Double knot, good to go. And then we're going to do the same method that we did to sew across. So front loop, picking up the front loop, and then picking up the back loop, picking up the back loop, and then picking up the front loop, all the way across to the next stitch marker. Okay, so we're getting to our stitch marker really close, and we're going to just continue putting our stitches where they belong. And then when we get there, we're just going to secure it with a knot. I'll do a little double knot right here, just the same. Make it nice and tight. And bam, we got our neck portion. So you don't have to worry about these tails. We're going to work those in during the next crochet step, okay? I'll just remove my stitch marker because I don't need it here anymore. Okay, so now we're going to turn our hood right side out. And this is what we have so far. We have our neck portion here, and then our hood portion here. Now before we do anything else, let's set this hood aside for a moment. Hey, before we get started, I just want to say, if you're not interested in the method I'm getting ready to show you, by all means, please just do a chain of 40 inches and then I'll meet you at the next step, okay? Otherwise, here we go. For this portion, I'm going to be using my J hook still, and then my contrasting color. So have you ever made a foundation chain stitch? No? Well, we're going to make one right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull our yarn, and we need 3 times the amount of length of what our project is doing this stitch. So for me, I actually used 2 wingspan lengths because we want to make this string 40 inches tall. And after you've stretched your yarn out, we're going to start with a slip knot just like this. So we're going to have our long string as working yarn, and then our main coming from the ball on the right. So what we're going to do is we're going to hold our yarn just like we would normally work. And then I'm going to loop, we're going to loop the hanging string over, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through just like that. So we're looping the residual yarn, we're yarning over and pulling through with the yarn from the ball, just like that. So let's try that again. We're gonna wrap our yarn around the hook, then we're gonna yarn over and pull through. And what we're doing is we're creating a sphere of chains, but it's also a foundation chain. So hold your work. You can hold your work just like this. Wrap your yarn around the hook, then yarn over and pull through 2 loops, just like that. Wrap, hold, yarn over, and pull. So, wrap, yarn over, and pull. And this is how it begins to look. Wrap, pull. And you continue just doing that all the way until you can't do it no more, or until you have 40 inches for your drawstring. Once you get the hang of how to hold the yarn, you can do it very fluidly. Wrap and pull. So what I do is I wrap it and I hold my work, and then I yarn over and pull through. Wrap and hold, yarn over and pull. Wrap and hold, yarn over and pull. And we're back. So what I would like to do is enter our hook into the base of our hood, right there in our first chain space. We're going to use our contrasting color, and we're going to loop in that new color. So just loop it in, just like that. Tighten your tail and make a chain. Make that nice and secure, and then I'm going to single crochet in that same space, just like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to work over all our tails, and we're going to single crochet all the way around this hood in the back loop. So let's single crochet in the back loops all the way around the whole hood, working in your tails. In my back loop, just like that. Trying to hold that tail down. I shouldn't have cut it so short. That's okay. We're going to work in our back loops all the way around the whole hood. Okay, so I made it back around, and I just worked in that tail that was hanging here. I just worked that in as I went around, and this is what we have so far. So we're still at the base of the neck, right, with the single crochet. Now what we're going to do is chain 1, single crochet in the same stitch, single crochet up until you pass over the first cluster. Let's see. 2, 3. Okay. So we've passed over this first cluster that's from the center. So once you do that, we're going to start working in our drawstring, right? So now you're more than welcome to weave it in and out the holes, but I'm going to show you the way that I do it. So just take one end, leaving a bit further down, and now we're going to work over our tail and just simply single crochet over the tail, just like that, all the way around. And we're going to do this around the whole hood until we get parallel to this opening, which should be, I believe, this cluster. So let's work it all the way around. And we're back, and I am coming up to my finishing stitches for my drawstring. So I'm just coming across here. I should be getting parallel to the other side really soon. You see, I'm coming for that cluster right there. Okay, so now I'll just straighten out my hood and just see if my strings are parallel to each other. You can see they're right across, they're evenly. So at this point, I can drop my drawstring and just single crochet the rest of the way across. So I'm just going to move that out the way and just single crochet my remainder stitches across. When I get to the end, I'm just going to slip stitch into my first stitch and then fasten off. Like that. I'm just going to tuck that in for now. Okay, so that's it for the hood portion. We're going to move on to the neck part, and I'm about to show you how that goes. So we're going to turn it so that we can be working in the right direction. And we're also going to work in the back loops. So we're going to pick our center cluster, and I like to start at the end of the first cluster of the cluster that we're going to use. So back loop, join our yarn, pull our tail, chain 1, and then single crochet in that same stitch. And we're going to single crochet in the back loop in every stitch across. So in every stitch and every chain across. I just made that a little tight. Get in there. Okay. So let's single crochet working in our tails all the way across. Okay, so we're coming to our corner, which is the chain 3. So as we're single crocheting across, this is what I want you to do in those 3 chains. So see, we have our chain 3 here. We're going to do 2, 1, 2. So we're going to do 2 single crochets in the first chain space. 1, 2, 1 in the center, 1, and then 2 here, 1, 2. And then we're going to continue on. just like that. And we're going to continue on with our single crochets in the back loop all the way around. Just like that. And when you get to the next corner, do the same thing. 2, 1, 2. So we're coming to the joining of the neck. I just wanted to point out, just make sure you get all the stitches around through the back loop. So I'm just kind of stretching it a little bit just so I can see all my stitches, and I'm just going to stitch all the way across nice and even, getting all my stitches. So here we are approaching our corners again. So just a reminder, 2, 1, 2. So 2 single crochets in the first chain, 1 single crochet in the middle chain, and then 2 single crochet in that third chain, and then carry on with your single crochets in the back loop all the way across to the end. Okay, so back at the end, I've already joined, and from this point, the last step, the last row, chain 2, double crochet in the same stitch and in every stitch across. Now we can use whole stitches for this. We're not doing any back loops. The back loop was just to create that solid edge there, and that's it. And we're gonna double crochet evenly all the way around the bottom. Get you back. All right, and I'm back, and I've done all my double crochets all the way around, and let me just show you. I just joined to the first stitch when I got back around, slip stitch, and then you can just weave in your ends, right? And then from here, I just want to show you the drawstrings. You have the option, you can put a little jewel or bead or something like that at the bottom, or you can just weave in those tails and it'll look the same on each end. So let me see what I got. All right, so I found these beads that I feel match this hood perfectly. And so I'm just gonna take an end, I'm gonna feed my bead through my hook. Hopefully your bead can fit over your hook like that. And then just pull it through like that. And then for the other bead, I'm gonna, even though it doesn't have a tail, I'm gonna just go up a little bit, not at the edge, but at the top, so I'm not pulling too hard, and it gives me a little leverage, and just pull that through just like that. And normally what I do is I just tie a knot, like a double knot like this at the tip, at the very tip, as close to the tip as I can, and I pull it down to see if it's secure, and I see it slip there, so that's why I said double knot. There we go. I'm gonna do 2 knots right here, right on top of each other. Like, try to make sure that they're on top of each other. That makes a big little nugget at the bottom, and then I'll pull to secure, make sure that's tight, and I'll work in that bottom piece so it's not like sticking out like a belly button. And I'll just pull and just secure it just like that. And I'll do the same on the other side. So I'll double knot on the edge, as close to the edge as possible, because I don't want to lose too much length on my hood trying to secure the bubble. So tie it, and then I wrap these ends around like that, and then I'll bring the bead down over that, and you won't even see it. Just like that. I want to mention one thing. When you're weaving in this end, weave it along the first row, like, you know, get it down into the first row. Do not weave your ends in the stitches where your drawstring is, because if you weave in your ends in the areas where your drawstring is, when your drawstrings goes back and forth, it'll pull your thread out. So just make sure you use this bottom stitch here to weave in your end so that you don't have no problems. Just weave it in. Okay. And here you have the Granny Squared Hoodie, or the Granny to the Second Power Hoodie. And yeah, so I hope this sparks some creativity, and enjoy. So thanks again for supporting this pattern. I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. It was my pleasure to share this design with you. So please don't forget, share your makes, tag me where possible. I really would love to see them. Otherwise, I'll see you guys around, okay? Bye!